As I'm sure you know already, Starward mode is a new optional addition to the 3 main endgame modes, requiring 3 teams instead of 2. In this video, I'll be covering the best teams and strategies to beat it. Though I do want to emphasize that it is optional, and completing it doesn't even give a single pull. Generally, the last node will have significantly more HP than the previous 2, and unlike normal MOC, to get the full Starward rewards, you will need an average of 4 cycles per side instead of 5. Before I get into teams, I'm going to show on screen what rules I'll be following for all of the teams in the name of fairness. Alright, first side. First phase starts with a Dark Sun Griffin, which summons 2 more enemies on its second action, and a Black Tide Daemon. The Daemon can reduce its own defense by 30% if you heal back any corrosion your team has, or if you don't take any damage in the first place, which can be a massive boost to your DPS. As for the next wave, it's Flame Reaver at 11 million total HP between 2 phases. He starts out with 8 stacks worth a 40% damage reduction, and as you kill the clones that he summons, he loses a stack for each clone, as well as losing 5% HP. He also loses 2% when summoning them. This HP can be recovered though if you don't kill enough of them, so you want to destroy as many as possible. With that in mind, let's move on to which teams are best. First team I will discuss is Mono Remembrance with Castress. The rotation followed for this was pretty complicated, but it managed to squeeze out 2 less cycles from my previous runs. On Netherwing's first turn, destroy it, then wait for Castress' turn, summon Netherwing, destroy it, wait for Castress again, then use Siren's ultimate, which should be ready by this point, destroy Netherwing, then summon it again, and don't destroy it. By this point, Hyacinth should be able to finish the wave. On the next wave, destroy it again, then keep it alive if you're missing damage like I was. Destroy, then wait until you reach 200% new blood for a massive nuke to finish the last phase. Some things to note are that you should always be summoning Evie as soon as you can, and that you should only be using Siren's ultimate attack once you've summoned Netherwing to get 20% respan on it. That might have been complicated, so I'll put the exact order on screen. This is assuming easy run Castress, of course. This allows you to finish in 2 cycles, and Siren can be replaced with Endblade. But if you want to finish, you can actually just allocate the same cost into Evernight and Siren's Light Cones instead, while replacing Castress with RMC. Yes, it clears in 1 cycle because that duo is so incredible. It's also much simpler to play. Castress will go in A tier because of how much optimization you need in order to get acceptable results. Meanwhile, I'll put Evie and Rini in S tier. The next best team clocking in at 1 cycle as well is going to be Ashvale. If you know how to play Ashvale, there's nothing groundbreaking to be said here. There's no one you can replace on this team aside from maybe Lincha, who I'm using for her at high attack frequency. First wait for Blade to get his ultimate, then start unloading Ashvale's damage onto the Griffin first to remove his summons, and you should be able to clear wave 1 in 0 cycles. Some Gluttony stacks might be wasted, but it's fine. As for the second wave, you should always kill the first set of summons and then focus on Flame Reaver. Blade should be able to deal a final blow if you manage his energy correctly, and that's it, S tier. Next up is Archer, who will be getting a massive upgrade, but before that, you will have to optimize a little and use Cypher. Archer will need 170 speed in order to be action advanced by Sparkle on a 3-turn setup. It's pretty complicated, so I suggest watching the run, which I will include in the description of this video. As for the second wave, as usual, aim to kill 4 of the clones before moving on to Flame Reaver. I didn't actually do this, so I ended up with a 3 cycle clear, but at better investment, you can probably take it to 2 cycles instead. This confidently puts Archer in A tier. As for the 2 final DPS that I recommend, I will not be talking about them for the sake of making this video not too long, but they should be pretty straightforward to play with average results. Zila took me 4 cycles, meanwhile Alexa took 5. They both go into the bottom of A tier. Now for the DPS I wouldn't recommend unless you vertically invested into them. Sadly, the Herta is a peerless brick, and you will need E2 for her to contest anybody else here. Same thing goes for Igla and Finon. I'm also gonna include Jinglu in this tier since she's an okay option if you have nothing else. The second side is truly awful. The first phase has one God Devourer offspring and one mech. The offspring will siphon your HP and return it when hit. It will also buff the attack of the character that depleted its attacks by 50%. Meanwhile, the mech deals a ton of damage, especially with the one that charges up, so be careful about which enemy you target and when. As for the second wave, this has possibly the worst boss in all of HSR history. On her second attack, she will inflict a control effect, Gorge Blaze, on one ally. This effect cannot be cleansed and instead requires you to spend skill points for a chance to unbreak your character. The chance increases the more SP you spend, capping out at 3. That, or you have the option to skip the character's turn entirely and the debuff will be removed. If this happens just once, it would be fine, but it will happen multiple times throughout the fight. And in the second phase, she will do an attack that targets 2 characters instead of 1. She also summons 2 side enemies, but all they do is tank damage and dilute your bounce hits. The only way to end the fight is to fully deplete Merita's HP, so they don't actually matter. Because of the aforementioned control debuff though, running Kushuan on this side is actually a solid choice if you want to avoid targeting RNG. Onto teams. Yeah, it's Ashura again. I don't have much to say about this team other than you should only target Merita and make sure your blade's enhanced state is constantly up. This team should comfortably clear in 2 cycles, which is the best result I've gotten from any team. You definitely don't want to replace Trivia unless you really know what you're doing though. It goes instantly in S tier. Next up is Archer again. As I alluded to earlier, Archer will soon be receiving a big upgrade through Rin, but I found that Cypher's mechanics actually make her a solid contender. First, you should target the offspring and get that 50% attack buff. Your rotation should be 5 arrows into 2 into 4. Save Cypher's ultimate to deal the final blow to the mech, and you should clear the first wave in 0 cycles. For Murata, just hope your Cypher or Danghang attack the debuff. Cypher's second ultimate should be saved for the second phase, in which you can use it before Murata summons any side enemies. Your Sparkle needs to be on DDD plus Eagle Set at 168 speed. You only need 150 at E1 to get her a 9th and final turn within 3 cycles. This allows Archer to finish the encounter, and he's quite solid here, so he will go in A tier. As for other options, they generally require you to have certain idle breakpoints like Firefly, E2, or E2 Blade for Acheron, so I will not be covering them. Though this should be a breeze for E2 Firefly. I'll put them in the lowest tiers as options you can consider. I'll also cheat a little and include Himeko Nova, who will be out soon. She's going to perform better than Ashvale, so you could realistically just wait for her release to complete this MOC. For the third side, I'm going to be brief. In phase 1, we have a blue mecha and a rocking rebel. The rocking rebel can increase another enemy's speed by 50%, which can end your run if you're using a sustain like Woho because of the mech's hit count mechanic and high damage output. He also takes increased damage after an AHA instant, which will be quite important considering he has 4 million HP. Next phase, we have a total of 20 million HP Sparksicon, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. You really want a Elimination team for this. I'm sure everyone knows how she works, so I won't be going over them in detail, but all of her mechanics center around AHA instants, and if your DPS isn't dealing elation damage, it's going to be much harder for them to get out of the subfield. The subfield enemies have a buff that reduces their damage taken by 50%, and it can only be removed when elation damage is dealt to them. There's no AHA instant if you don't have an elation character on your team either, so they're basically never losing this debuff outside of elation teams. Add to that, you get an extra AHA instant when leaving the subfield, and yeah. Even bringing your strongest team here may not be an option because of the subfield mechanic. So sadly, there's not much I can say about this side because of the insane gap in performance. The best team is Silverwolf 999 in 1 cycle, then Evanescia at 2 cycles because it's generally a bad matchup for her with no physical weakness. Though keep in mind this performance will be severely lowered if you don't own Yao Guang or Sparksy for Silverwolf. And then it jumps down to 5 cycles for Firefly. Granted, if you have a more invested Firefly, you would be able to clear much faster. I had no choice but to waste turns on enemies with 1% HP left. With Firefly, you want to always target the middle enemy in the subfield, and you should save all of your ally ultimates for when you get out of the subfield, since all of Dahlia, Fugue, and Linkshot can apply debuffs with their ultimates. As for the elation teams, well, you don't need to think about that much. You can effectively auto this side. The Elation DPS go in S tier, meanwhile Firefly will be just alright at A tier. Next is Archer, but don't even think about using him unless you have E1 or are planning to get Rin. Same E1 requirement goes for if you want to use Mayday. So what combination of teams should you use? If you're primarily a male character puller, I'd recommend going with an Axe on the first side, Ashvale on the second, and E1 Archer on the third. If you invest horizontally into anniversary characters, use Caster's Remembrance, then Akron, then Silverwolf 999. Granted, you have all of their supports. But the best combination for this MOC is using Evernight plus Cyrene on the first side, then Ashvale on the second, and finally Silverwolf 999 for the third, clocking in at just 4 cycles. You can also change Silverwolf 999 for Evanescia if you have E1, but that's only because EMT is a fraud. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you found it helpful in some capacity, and bye bye.